Hello everybody. In this video lecture, we will cover different tissues, and this is relative to your lab exercise 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. So I just want to remind you that we have four major types of tissue, or four major groups of tissue: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nerve tissue. And for every tissue that we have in this PowerPoint slide, you need to know description, function, and common location. So here we're going to start with simple squamous epithelial tissue. And so you guys can see that those are the cells over here, right? So here we have a cells, kind of like this is a cell, here's probably another cell. I cannot really even see where we have kind of one cell connected to another cell. And this is top view. So we can, be sure that we see one layer of cells and they're pretty flat, right? So that's our simple squamous. And for description, this is what you need to know. It's one layer of cells, and cells are flat, right? So what is the function? Because it's so thin layer of cells, it would be good for diffusion and filtration, because it's easy for substances like molecules and some maybe, like some ions. Well, even ions do not really diffuse very well, but if we have special channels, they can diffuse down their concentration gradient. But you can see that because it's so thin, it's good for diffusion and filtration. Now, where do we need this diffusion and filtration? Well, if we're talking about diffusion, that probably is good to have it in the air sacs of the lungs, right? So that's actually the photomicrograph of alveoli that are air sacs. So oxygen and carbon dioxide can easily diffuse through this thin layer of cells. If you're talking about filtration, then we would find it in the kidneys. Because in the kidneys, in a nephron, right, especially in structures that called glomerulus, this is where we will find the simple squamous epithelium. So kidney, lungs, also blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Inside the blood vessels and lymphatic vessels, that's a lining of the walls, and also lining of the ventral body cavity. And we know that that's called serosa. So serosa is made from simple squamous epithelial tissue and areolar tissue underneath of it. Okay, so we know description, we know function, and we know location. So here actually our two major, two important locations for simple squamous epithelium. It's the endothelium, and endothelium is the one that lining the lymphatic vessels, blood vessels, and the heart, and mesothelium, and that's epithelium of the serous membrane, and we know that serous membrane is found in the ventral body cavities. Okay, next type of the epithelium is simple cuboidal. So you see that here's our basement membrane, right? So let me get my, so here's our basement membrane here, and we have one layer of cells, and they have this shape of little cubes. So that's our description, function, secretion, and absorption. And again, where do you need secretion and absorption? You need it in kidney tubules, also ducts of the glands. Small glands are made from simple cuboidal, and surface of the ovary. So if you look at this photomicrograph, so you see this is a tube, right? So here's the whole tube. Maybe I'll take a blue color so we can see better, right? So here's another tube. Oh, didn't pick it up. So here's a tube, right? Here's another tube. And this is actually kidney tubules, right? So kidney tubules. But if you see, the walls of the tube are made from simple cuboidal epithelium, right? Now also, you see guys, this like dark part, this is a nucleus, right? So don't be confused, this is not a cell. The cell are actually all this structure, this pinkish structure, right? That's surrounding a nucleus, right? So here's our simple cuboidal epithelium. Again, here we go. Simple columnar, again, description. It's one layer. Cells are columnar, right? So you can see here some description. You can read more about it. Some have cilia, some have microvilli. Function, absorption, and secretion. And location would be your digestive tract, like stomach, from stomach to pretty much anal canal, gallbladder, some ducts of a bigger glands, also small bronchi, uterine tubes, and some region of the uterus. But if we really want to pick up one, very important location for simple columnar, that will be our digestive system, right? So here, digestive tract. And on this photomicrograph, you can see that's our basement membrane over here, right? And here's our columnar cells. Here's 1, 2. Remember, all epithelial cells are located close to each other, and what you see inside, those are nuclei. So 1 nucleus per cell. All right, so let me again remove all my writing so we can get to the next slide. The rest of the epithelium, well, except of stratified squamous, the rest is pretty rare, like stratified cuboidal, quite rare in the body, found in some sweat and mammary glands, and typically it's only 2 layers thick, right? So like over here, what you see on a picture, so here we have again some kind of duct or tube, and you can see we have several layers, right, of the cuboidal cells. Right, so that's, I'm drawing the cells for you, and this darker part inside, those are nuclei. And again, 1 nucleus per cell, uninucleated. Stratified columnar, also limited distribution in the body, small amounts in pharynx, male urethra, and lining some ducts of the bigger glands. So we also can see here, again, this is our basement membrane. And, well, we're looking at the apical surface. On the apical surface, I have, like probably over here, some columnar cells, and here I have more. Okay, so it's a stratified columnar, limited distribution in the body. Okay, is this my trying to pick it up? Yeah, here we go. Okay, this type of epithelium, pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So what is interesting about this epithelium, that when you look at the, let's look at photomicrograph. So here's our basement membrane, and it seems like we have, well, it seems like we have several layers of the cells, and definitely the apical cell is columnar, right? And here's, it has a cilia on the top, but this is not actually a case. If you look to this diagram right here, you can see that every single cell touching a basement membrane. It's just some cells are short and some cells are tall, but every single cell touching the basement membrane. So it cannot be stratified. That's why we call it pseudo, and pseudo means falsely stratified. So it just look like stratified, but it's actually one layer of cells, but because they all different heights, it gives us appearance, stratified appearance. So function is a secretion, particular secretion of the mucus and propulsion of mucus by ciliary action. So here you see the cilia on the top of these columnar cells. And what is important about this epithelium, it's actually lots of your respiratory tract, right? Most of the upper respiratory tract line by this pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium. You also will find it in some in sperm-carrying ducts, but this will be non-ciliated, right? But this ciliated is the epithelium. We call it even respiratory epithelium because it covers most of the upper respiratory tract. Right? Okay. So this is stratified squamous. So you guys probably already familiar with how we with naming of the epithelium. So we have basement membrane, right? And then we have many layers of cells. So here's all our layers of cells, and we're looking at the apical surface and they flat. So it's a stratified squamous. And we have two types of stratified squamous. We have keratinized and non-keratinized. So this one is non-keratinized. And your epithelium actually starts from this point all the way up, right? So here, this is many layers of these cells. And you see, close to this basement membrane, we have cells of a different shape. We cannot even say for sure what shape those cells are, but we know that on the apical surface, those cells are flat, right? So that's why it's stratified squamous. And you see these dark parts, those are nuclei. That means that even the upper layer of the cells, they are living cells. That's why this one is non-keratinized. Now, this type of epithelium is good for protection. And because it's good for protection, you find it in the area subject to abrasion. So you will find it in a lining of esophagus, mouth, vagina. This is all the area that's subject to abrasion. And then keratinized will form epidermis of your skin. This epithelium is also not very common. This is transitional epithelium. And it resembles both stratified squamous and stratified cuboidal. So basal cells are cuboidal or columnar, surface cells are squamous-like. And why do we have this different appearance? So here, if you look, we really like stratified cuboidal. But remember, in our body, we do not really have so much of stratified cuboidal. And if we do, it's usually only 2 layers. Here we have way more layers than 2. And that's why if you see photograph like this or like this over here, that's not stratified cuboidal, not stratified columnar, just because it's really very rare in our body. So that would be transitional epithelium. And it can stretch, right? And when it's stretched, it's actually changing the shape of the apical cell. So look, this one look like a squamous, right? And this one, let's say over here, look like cuboidal. And location is pretty limited. Urinary bladder, part of the urethra, and the ureters. That's a place where you need a lot of stretch, especially let's look at your urinary bladder, right? When it's empty or when it's full with urine, that allow some stretch to your urinary bladder. Okay, now we are in a connective tissue, and this is very, very famous connective tissue on this slide, and this is areolar, right? Let's see. Yeah, that's the areolar connective tissue. So areolar connective tissue, if you go back to our lecture, you will see what kind of different cells we have, right? The major cell, however, will be fibroblast, right? So over here, those are fibroblast, and you see nuclei of the fibroblast. So cells are also, you would have like different cells like this one. Those are white blood cells, or maybe some macrophages. We cannot even really tell the difference so much, but cells are not close to each other, and what is in between them? Lots of extracellular matrix. And here we have our collagen fibers. Now these fibers are elastic fibers. We also will have reticular fibers, however you cannot see them on this micrograph. Right, so it's a widely distributed tissue, and you will find it under epithelia of your body. Your skin, we will discuss it later, it's made from epithelial and connective tissue, and just underneath of epithelial tissue, you will have this areolar connective tissue pretty much covering your whole body. And also it forms a lamina propria of the mucous membrane. I'm reminding you that mucous membrane cover open body cavities. It also surrounds the capillaries, right? So if you look over here, you can see that's our epithelium, right? So here's the epithelium, and this is lamina propria under the epithelial tissue, right? So very widely distributed tissue. Adipose tissue. Well, unfortunately, in some people, it's also widely distributed. Matrix as an areola, but very sparse. The cells called adipocytes, and they are closely packed. So this is actually kind of like one cell over here. And this cell has this huge vacuole, and what is inside this vacuole is the fat droplet. So here's the nucleus, and this like purple stuff, that's a part of the cytoplasm of the cell. So what would be the function? It's store fat as an energy source. It insulates your body against heat loss. It supports and protects organ, and you will find it under the skin. It will be the structure called hypodermis, that is mostly adipose tissue. Large amount of adipose tissue you will find around kidneys and eyeballs, within abdomen, in the breast, right? So everywhere we have our kind of like extra pounds, that this tissue is responsible for that. This is connective tissue proper, and it's also loose connective tissue, and this one is reticula. So reticular connective tissue looks similar to areolar, but the major fibers are reticular fibers. So here, let me take a red color. So here, these fibers are short, branching fibers, reticular fibers, and those cells are, of course, our fibroblast cells. Function is support, and location. This is part of the what we call lymphatic tissue, because many of your lymphatic organs are made from this reticular loose connective tissue, and some white blood cells, right? So here you have white blood cells. Soviet cells, lymphoid organs, lymph nodes, bone marrow, and spleen. This is where you find a lot of this reticular connective tissue proper. Okay, let me just remove. It's already taking me 20 minutes, and I didn't want this lecture to be that long, but just lots of tissue. So this tissue is connective tissue proper, and this is dense regular. So dense regular, okay, because it's a connective tissue, as any connective tissue, this tissue has a lot of extracellular matrix. So this is a cell, this is fibroblast, right? So here's the fibroblast. And everything you see between them is extracellular matrix. So this is collagen fibers, and these collagen fibers kind of run in the same direction. That's why we call it regular, because all the fibers kind of run in the same direction. Function attaches muscle to bones, or to muscle attaches bones to bones, right? And it's withstands great tensile stress. So location you will find in the tendons, and tendons, that's what connect your muscle to bones. Ligaments, and ligaments is what connect bones to bones, and also aponeurosis. And aponeurosis, it's another connective tissue that connects your muscles, or cover your muscles, or connect your muscle to the bones. Right, so this one is dense regular. So next tissue is dense irregular. So if you compare it with the previous slide, you can see that we also have our fibroblast here, right? So here's we have all the fibroblast. And we have extracellular matrix in between them, but in this situation, fibers, collagen fibers, they run in all different directions. They're not parallel to each other. So you see these fibers go this direction or that direction, or here we have fibers go this way and that way. So it's also dense tissue, and we call it irregular because fibers pretty much run in a different direction. And because of that, it withstands the tension, right? And provides really good strength. So you would find it in the biggest location is dermis of the skin. Also, it's a fibrous capsule of organs and a joint, a submucosa of digestive tract. But if you need to choose one big location, that will be dermis. And of course, in the next chapter, we will talk in details. What is epidermis? What is dermis of your skin? So this is elastic tissue, and in elastic tissue, you can see these dark fibers, right? And this. So those are elastic fibers, and so this one, it's connective tissue that has high proportion of the elastic fiber. And because it has so much elastic fibers, it allows recoil of tissue, you would not find it so much in the body, but let's say in the large arteries, you will find it in the walls of the elastic arteries. So here's your location: walls of large arteries, some ligaments associated with vertebral column, and walls of the bronchial tubes. Okay, so that's our elastic tissue. Next one, we're going to hyaline cartilage. I just want to remind you that we have three types of cartilage. We have hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. So hyaline cartilage is the most abundant cartilage in the body. And we have amorphous but firm matrix. We have collagen fibers that form into interceptable network. We do have over here, let me show you. Okay, so that's a matrix, right? That's our matrix. And we have these cells are chondrocytes. So here's the chondrocytes. And because this matrix is, it's pretty thick, and it's not, very, I would say, what word I'm trying to use. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard matrix. These cells, it would be very difficult for these cells to stay alive surrounded by these hard substances. That's why every chondrocyte, it's located inside this little pocket of fluid, and this is called a lacuna, right? So we have chondrocytes inside the lacuna. A lacuna provides this extra fluid surrounding a cell. You guys remember that animal cells must be surrounded by fluid, otherwise they will die. And because the matrix is pretty hard in cartilage, we have this lacuna to give us this extra fluid surrounding the cell. So the function supports and reinforces your structure, and location. It's most of the embryonic skeleton. You find it at the ends, epiphysis and diaphysis of long bones. You also find it in what we call costal cartilage, right? That one that connects the ribs to the sternum, in your nose, trachea, and larynx. Next cartilage is the fibrocartilage. Matrix similar to the hyaline cartilage, but we have mostly collagen. Collagen fibers are predominant, and this is pretty strong material. So you will find it in intervertebral discs. So it shows over here between the vertebra. So here you have your vertebra, and between them you have this intervertebral disc. And it's also found disc of your knee joint and pubic symphysis. And pubic symphysis connects to your hip bones or coxa bones or hip bones together, right? Okay, why it's not removing this stuff. Okay, here we go. Now we are in the bone. So bone is another supporting connective tissue, and so bone is hard, calcified. It has hard calcified matrix, contains many collagen fibers, and cells of the bones are also located inside the fluid, pocket of fluid that's called lacuna. Bone is very vascularized. I forgot to tell you that cartilage is a vascular tissue. That's why it's actually harder to heal for cartilage compared with a bone. And you know, your bones provide support, protection, levers for muscles to act on, and you will find it in the bones. So over here, you have this, the whole structure over here is called osteon. Osteon. So inside the osteon, this part, this is central canal, or you can find it right here. So that's your central canal. Now these dark parts, those are lacunae, and what is inside this lacunae are osteocytes, right? So osteocytes are inside the lacunae, and lacuna is that pocket of fluid. Now what is lamella? So lamella are those kind of rings, right? So look, if I show you this is one lamella, right? So here's the one lamella, and then we have another lamella, right? So lamella is pretty much this circular structure. And another thing is this like hair-like structures, right? This is called canaliculi. And what canaliculi does, they connect central canal with the osteocyte. And what you find in the central canal, this will be blood vessels over here, right, and nerves. So blood vessel and nerves in the central canal gonna bring nutrients and oxygen will travel through these canaliculi to osteocytes, right? So, okay, so that's kind of brief structure of the compact bone. So that's a compact bone over here. That's blood, fluid connective tissue. And as for any connective tissue, I already told you we have red blood cells, right? White blood cells that are bigger, platelets, and plasma, that is our extracellular matrix. And the function would be transportation. Your blood will deliver oxygen and nutrients and remove a waste product like carbon dioxide from your cells and organs. Your blood also gonna carry hormones and some other substances and location within blood vessels. This is a nervous tissue, and we have variety of nervous tissue. This is specifically just giant nephrons shown over here. So what are neurons? Neurons are branching cells. So here's the body of neuron or soma. This is where you will find the nucleus. You will find all these organelles, typical organelles for a cell like Golgi apparatus, rough ER. And then we have these neuronal processes. Most of them are dendrites, and then you will see axons. And to find the axon, you kind of want to find like this. Actually, this one is good. Let me just remove this and this. And I know this is axon because it starts with this like little triangle over here, and this is called axon hillock. And then we have long process that is axon. So you can look over here, numerous dendrites and one axon per neuron. And function would be transmission of electrical signals and also sending, transition of the electrical signal from the sensory receptors to your brain and from your brain to your muscles and glands, right? So transmission of electrical signals to control activity of muscles and glands. And you will find it in the brain, spinal cord, nerves, and we have other nervous tissue pretty much just through your whole entire body. Okay, muscles. So we have three types of muscle. We have skeletal muscles, we have cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. And skeletal muscle, long cylindrical multinucleate cells, and we see obvious striation. So let me show you the cell. So you see that's one cell. So this is a long tubular cell here, right? And this dark stuff, those are nuclei. So we have numerous nuclei inside one cell, and you can see this lines. This is striation. Function is voluntary movement of your body for locomotion and also your facial expression. And because it's voluntary movement, you can control it. And location in the skeletal muscle attaches to bones and occasionally attached to your skin when we're talking about muscle of facial expression, right? Let's say your orbicularis oculi muscle, or your vaccinator. So muscles located on your face usually have their insertion in your skin, not bones. Most of them. Cardiac muscles are branching cells. So over here, let's see. So that's a cell. Right from that, and you can say probably goes over here somehow, right? So I don't know, that's look like a nucleus. Yeah, nucleus of the cell. So they branching cells, they have obvious striation. And you see these dark lines, this is called intercalated disc. So that's very distinct characteristic of the cardiac muscles, right? Those are all intercalated discs. And those intercalated discs, they connect two adjacent cells together. So here we would have two cells. I told you it's uninucleated, striation, branching cells. and function is contraction to pump your blood, right, and propels your blood through your body. They are involuntary, and you find cardiac muscle cells only in the walls of the heart. So very limited location, but very important location. And smooth muscle. So smooth muscles, they spindle-like cells. So here's spindle-like cells, uninucleated, so one nucleus per cell. They arrange closely together to form sheets. Function, as any muscle, is movement, but this time we're gonna move foodstuffs, urine, right, or even, let's say, what else can we move? Well, we move your blood because your heart contracts, but you will find smooth muscle in the walls of the blood vessels as well. And so that location is mostly in the walls of hollow organ. So especially in your gastrointestinal tract, right? But you will find all this type of muscle in your respiratory tract. You will find it also, as I said, in the walls of the blood vessels. Okay, so that was the last slide. So make sure you pay attention to description, function, and location of all this type of the tissue. Pay attention to these photomicrographs, and it will be another PowerPoint slides where I will put the pictures of our slides that we would look at if we were in our classroom. And those slides, photomicrographs of tissue, this is the one that will be on your lab exam. Okay, so bye for now, and I hope you learn a lot.